welcome to it.
Welcome to the Naked Apple.
The Naked Apple.
And I'm going to have to introduce myself with a cough.
Welcome to our special guest today.
Oh, Rona.
Ooh, hey.
Hopefully that doesn't come back.
Is it Rona or is it allergies? Wait, allergies or sneezes? Never mind. This is definitely Rona.
Yes,
Definitely Rona.
the Ronas.
The Ronas.
Yeah, joining us is a special guest. He is an expert of nothing, but to us, he knows more about medicine than we do. So he's an expert in our eyes. We have a good friend of ours, James Lawrence. He'll be talking with us a little bit about his experiences being in the medical field and all that. Thank you for joining us, James.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
If you ask him his political opinion on things, he'll defer to someone like myself or Mike to to confirm his confirmations. It's not that he doesn't care per se. Let me know if I ever get this wrong. It's not that you don't care necessarily about this side, that side of politics. It's more that you just don't care of necessarily expressing your opinion and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually had to write a paper today where I said I don't care. And professors or like instructors don't like that phrasing. So I had to reword it in a way that
In an educated
Articulate.
way.
Say
that
I don't care
care.
without actually saying I don't care.
yeah, because it's a discussion board. They want your input. They want your thoughts on the issue, and you're supposed to elaborate on other people's comments. That whole dance that you're supposed to do
Right.
with degrees. But
I'm not sure how I would do that in a paper, but I do it with my facial expressions almost every day.
yeah.
Blank stare is worth 0 words.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so one reason why we wanted to bring James on here with us is he had an opportunity to go to Boston, correct?
That is correct.
To go to Boston to help out at one of the hospitals there with all their patients that they were seeing and everything. And so we wanted to kind of get his take on what he observed there versus here in Utah and just things like that. And we're not going to try to pick your brain on
Please.
which
Anything too technical or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
it's kind of observations you had between, because you're one of the few people, especially that we know, that has been in multiple places that have varying degrees of outbreaks and things with this pandemic that's going on. All right.
All right. So yeah. So you mentioned you're going to school. What is it exactly you're going to school for your nursing, and what's your end goal with nursing?
Currently, I'm getting my BSN, my bachelor's degree through Dixie State. I'm in my last semester there, so I'm going to
Nice.
get my pat on the back bachelor's, meaning it does really nothing for me besides that hospitals are requiring it now, because continuing education, all the studies show that nurses are more proficient and effective in their job. So yeah, I'm going to go get that, and then after I'm done with my bachelor's, I want to go up to the University of Utah and get my degree in nursing informatics and be more on the technological side of things, programming, implementation of new technologies, because really I'm just a nerd at heart.
So an IT specialist
IT.
in nursing.
Yeah, the one that can bridge the gap between nurse and IT guy.
So doctor halfway across the world says scalpel, and you can help that scalpel get into the little robot hands, more or less.
I suppose. I'm sure there's lots of spheres, of things under the umbrella
Right.
of the job, but
Cool.
yeah, that's the hope. But who knows what'll happen?
That's cool. And how long have you been pursuing this?
Well, I've been a nurse for about a year and a half, and I don't really know exact how long timeline. It's all really a blur. Like my last 2 years getting into nursing school and being in nursing school was just
Just
the
one-
days and the
Kinda
hours, the
all
weeks just blend.
blurs together.
I
So-
remember I wasn't in nursing school when I decided I wanted to do nursing informatics.
You weren't.
I was not.
Okay.
I can't confirm if I decided I wanted to be a nurse or whatever. I was a very confusing coming of age what I wanted to do when I grew up, So
Right.
So what made you decide to do that?
go into informatics or nursing in general.
Yes.
Yes. Start with nursing and then
Okay, so
informatics.
nursing, I was one of those 4-year associate degree kids. Like I was having a hard time figuring
Right.
out what I wanted to do.
You were
when
a
I-
senior about to get your associates.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So I was just wasting a ton of credits, and I was riding the financial aid pony, and I knew I was at the end of my rope with that. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what I want to do. And I don't want to. It's not an all inspiring story, but this was honestly one of the turning points. I had an ingrown toenail. Long story short, I went in and the anesthetic didn't really kick in, so I felt a good 50% of that scissor going into
Nice.
my toe, and I was fascinated with that, and I was just watching it happen, just gripping the chair real tight, and he got it done, and it's like, wow, that was intense. And I think I want to be a nurse. I mean, the idea was already kind of trickling in my mind. I mean, I wanted
That
to be-
was just the tipping point.
yeah, the tipping point.
The
so-
tipping point was getting stabbed with scissors for an ingrown toenail.
Yeah.
They cut me open, and I knew what I wanted to
I
do.
knew right then.
Yeah,
I
a lot of-
had to be a nurse.
Yeah, a lot of people have a much more inspiring and like heartfelt story, but that was mine.
I saw nurses saving lives. I just want to help
Yo.
people. Yeah, a guy
it's
cut
alright.
cut into my toe and got my ingrown toenail out. So I thought, I need to be a nurse.
Yeah, and I was getting older, and it just a decision had to be
It's-
made.
You know, a lot of people discover who they are and what they want in life under the point of somebody else's sharp object.
You're not wrong. I knew I wanted to be machinist when I was getting cut up doing machining. So
There you
so
go.
there's that.
There you go.
So I guess you were not too far off in that regard.
So then, that's how you decided you wanted to become a nurse. What made you decide to go into? You said informatics.
Informatics, yes.
Yeah.
You know, when I walk into a patient's room and you start bantering and start building rapport and, you know, learning about your patient, I often say a phrase like, oh, this nursing gig is just job security. Like, it's not really where the foundation of my heart is. It's technology, it's gadgets, it's that type of realm.
You're not there because you want to give people sponge baths. You're there because you want to do the
Yeah.
technology stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I love people.
Right.
I find the human body fascinating. I kind of compare the human body to a computer, and that segued nicely for my fascination in like anatomy and physiology and all those classes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think they're two worlds. A lot of people would seem polar opposite, but with the way that the world is going, technology is in everything, and it's a win-win.
Right.
I enjoy both, but I mean, who knows? I might take care of a kid one day, and I might fall in love and want to go into pediatrics. Who knows?
Right.
It's still undecided, but I at least have a goal and a direction that I'm heading in.
It's an ever evolving path.
Yeah, I don't want to be closed off to any possibilities. I guess
Nice.
we'll see. We'll see.
Nice. So, I guess fast forward to where you are now. What's kind of the experience you have had with the coronavirus stuff here in Utah versus when you were in Boston?
Different, but I would like to start with saying this, like, I've remained pretty ignorant to a lot of it.
Right.
And this is another phrasing that I usually when I walk into a patient's room, you observe a lot of things really quickly, right? And one of the things that I notice very quickly is which news program they're listening to. If it's CNN or if it's Fox, I have to approach it very, very differently. And it's true. And I also joke.
Pull the mask up on CNN, drop it for Fox. Is that
No,
Oh, this is a CNN guy. How you doing today, sir?
no, because I'm a good boy and I follow policy. But yeah, it's a lot like that. And I always joke when they ask the questions, because the news is always on. That's the only time I ever watch the news is when I'm in a patient's room.
right?
And they ask me about it. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? And I usually say, you know, I'm not allowed to have an opinion at work.
Fair enough.
That's fair enough.
I mean, not fair for you, but a
Right.
fair response.
Yeah, because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to start this relationship on a bad note. And I usually then segue into the phrase, you know, being a nurse, you'd think I would know a lot more about this, about the situation, what's going on in the world.
Right,
But
because you're in it.
because I'm in it. I'm frontlining, a lot of people like to say. But I have chosen to remain ignorant because I don't know who's telling the truth. There's just so much misinformation out there that it's easy to be misled in what's factual and what's just
Right.
an opinion being thrown out there to see who catches it. And yeah, I mean, I've run into times when doctors are at the nurses station arguing about the facts of what we should and should not do. And it's become such a headache. The only thing that I've ever read is my hospital's policy on what our guidelines are to protect ourselves and our patients.
Right.
That's the only thing I've read. I mean, I've skimmed a little bit on Facebook and seen headlines, but I've passed them all up. I'm to the point where I'm just so exhausted with the he said, she said, or CDC said this, and then
Welcome to the club.
yeah, it's and that's in a nutshell what I tell my patient. I'm like, I don't care. I do care, but the weight that it puts on the stressors for my mind is just, it's too much. I'm over it.
I care about you. I just don't care about that.
Yeah. So the difference is,
And I guess in a way that kind of makes you, to me, that would seem like it makes you a better caregiver, and that you're not getting your head involved in this side, that side. You're just staying focused on the task you have at hand of, this is what I'm being asked to do, so I'm going to do it. I'm not going to dilly-dally on this, that, or the other. Just
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just trying to stay out of it, because it does cause, there's a lot of fear.
Right.
And so when fear is involved, fear is a powerful emotion. And when, you know, your opinion, what's the word, like targets that fear
right.
in someone, they can get riled up. And I've seen it at work.
Right.
And I just try and stay out of it altogether. Yeah, but what your question was, the differences?
Differences
between Utah and Boston.
and Boston.
Utah and Boston. One of the biggest differences I saw was in Boston, nurses were dropping almost on a daily basis. And I think a lot of that was fear. Quitting.
Quitting. Okay.
Quitting.
Okay. Just wanted to.
Yeah, just some were actually show up to work and notice how many isolation patients we had and would walk out. And it's just like wonderful. I've got 3 more patients today.
I flew all the way out here for this.
And I knew what I was signing up for, so I only complained minimally.
Right.
Sorry, but yeah, it was pretty rough some days. Yeah.
So were the hospital policies relatively the same, or was it different?
Definitely different. One thing that I did notice, that policies were almost changing on a whim. Like, you could tell they didn't know what they were doing. Rightfully so. I mean, it was a total curveball, and they didn't.
Well, even at this point, there's still new information coming about
Right.
how the infection spreads, about what does or doesn't do things. So it would stand to reason that they would shift as new information came to light.
Oh yeah. So I guess the phrase "they didn't know what they were doing," I mean, they were going off of the best information that they had at the time, and they were just trying to make the best of what they had. Because they were, word they were overflowing. They don't want to. That's why they did the quarantine, because they didn't want to overload the hospitals.
Right.
But what's the phrasing? It's skipping my mind.
Yeah, They didn't want to overload the hospitals.
Right.
They
Overload
were,
the healthcare system.
Right.
Okay, there you go. I had it right and I didn't realize. Okay,
You're good.
but yeah, it was ever changing quite rapidly, and you just roll with the punches and went with it.
Make the best of it.
Yeah, it really was. And yeah, so we showed up there in Boston, myself and a couple other coworkers.
Right.
And we just put us where you need us. We don't want to be difficult. We already know you're running around like headless chickens. So, and they put me on an LTAC, a long-term acute care, and then they put my colleagues on C-Wing, which was a temporary last-minute COVID unit. Now, I had COVID patients, but they were all pending. We swabbed them. Once they turned out positive, they shipped them down to the C-Wing.
Right.
But I was just on an LTAC. And because of how many pendings we had, yeah, that's just made our isolation patients numbers go up, and that's what caused a lot of nurses to walk out.
So how does that differ from, I assume that you've seen the way that they implement those kinds of things here in Utah. How is that different here versus there?
Not so much.
Is it just mostly a numbers thing? You're not as overwhelmed or something?
Definitely not as overwhelmed. We are not the frontliners, so we're not taking the brunt of the blow. So we kind of are learning from what they're doing. I assume that we're seeing what's working, what's not working, and then we're kind of implementing before.
Right. So you're not actually hands-on with the patients, with the infected patients here in Utah, right?
We can.
You can.
So how my hospital works is we have a COVID unit down, kind of isolated from everywhere else.
Right.
And depending on the patient need, we float down to the unit. I haven't been down there for a while for multiple reasons, but yeah, I have worked down on the COVID unit, and they.
Okay.
Yes, so I have been hands-on with
All right.
many COVID patients.
But you're not like assigned necessarily
No.
to their region. Okay. All right.
And a lot of them are tele status, meaning cardiac problems and whatnot, and I'm not certified to work with them, so kind of a blessing in disguise. I don't have to go down to COVID because I'm not certified to take care of those type of patients.
I'm not certified to COVID.
Was anyone certified to COVID before this happened?
I don't have that certification. I can't.
I can't do that. So you need a Class A license for that. I am a Class B.
Yeah, really not many differences. It's just you see their preparation before the flood comes.
Right.
And that's what I've noticed.
Right.
So with that flood, did you see a lot of difference? I mean, you said you were working mostly with the you said LTAC, was that
Yes,
it?
LTAC.
With the LTAC. Did you see a lot of difference in the flow of coronavirus patients into the hospital versus non-coronavirus patients into the hospital? Were they, limiting things one way or another, or how did they kind of handle that? That you noticed?
One of the biggest things that I noticed is facilities, because I was in long-term acute care. A lot of them are going into rehabs or homes or something like that. So a lot of these facilities wanted a negative, a swab, even up to 3 times.
Right. Just to make sure.
Just to make sure before we would ship them out.
Oh.
That's probably the biggest thing.
So the main focus of the hospital was to basically have just the coronavirus patients there as much as possible, and to get anyone that could leave out.
True.
Okay.
They did do, there was a hospital up there in Boston that they designated specifically for corona patients.
Right.
That it opened up like halfway through my time there. So that's just another point to why that they were just pulling it together
Gotcha.
in the last minute. And that's where we eventually shipped them all or sent them all. It makes
Shipped them all.
It makes it sound like the barcodes
Load
and
'em up
packages.
You're good.
Load them up in containers. You're good. Get them out of here.
Yeah. But no, we transferred them over to that hospital.
Okay. Cool.
So did you guys have a lot of issues with what's that, like overpopulation with the hospital, like too many people in the hospital at any given point, or was it fairly well organized to where they were able to keep the numbers at a manageable pace?
Because I wasn't taking care of the COVID patients, like specifically, and at that specific hospital, I can say yes. I only know that because of the stories that I heard from my coworkers.
Okay.
They were definitely, the ratios were definitely high. There was a lot of people flooding in, and it was hard for the staff to keep up.
Right. We're great interviewers, as you can tell.
I would imagine with that, it would be pretty stressful on you as staff members handling those kinds of cases, and that, like you said, it wasn't something you guys were certified for before, and especially coming from here, going over there and having to deal with, a completely different hospital system and things like that. How did you,
charting program, that was probably the biggest.
What stresses did it put on you as a nurse and on your coworkers? I guess, how did you guys kind of deal with that?
One thing we did was we all got back to the hotel, and we would often go to the little courtyard tables and a barbecue, and we would vent. Instead of crying, we would laugh.
You gotta laugh to keep from crying. Is that?
Yeah. And I was really the lucky one. I mean, halfway through, I told a couple of my bosses, like, if you want to send me to the COVID hospital, send me, because that's what I signed up for. That's what I was prepped for. But I didn't want to be a thorn in their side or obligate them to anything, cause more stress and whatnot. So I offered it one time. They left me on the LTAC.
Didn't complain.
Didn't complain. My position in the LTAC wasn't easy, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely not what my coworkers went through. They got it rough. And I almost wanted to be at that hospital for those stories.
I want the stories, man.
Yeah, no, there's truth to it. I wanted the experience. But I guess it looks the same on the resume. We all went to Boston. We all went for the COVID crisis. So
Right. Gold star for you on the resume.
yeah.
Right.
I don't get a little explanation column on the resume. So my heart was pure. I went there with the best intention. I just got the lucky roll of the dice.
Put me in, coach. I can do it.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. So throughout all of that, like what was kind of the feeling among the staff at the hospitals, both here and there, that you noticed? I mean, you said you got together and vented and things like that, but was the overall feeling, was it optimistic? Was it just kind of whatever, another day at work, or how were you guys feeling?
I feel really sorry for the staff that actually worked at those hospitals. Their morale was...
Yeah, you were just there for a few weeks.
Yeah,
right?
I was there for a little over a month.
Right.
It didn't compare.
They are still there.
They are still there. And they asked me to extend. There was no way I could have emotionally have handled it.
Right.
Like, they offered a few more pretty perks and everything. I'm like, no, I miss my family. Like, the stress is just too much. I did counter offer a stupid amount, and they rejected it, which is fine because it was all a bluff, really. But, so I got to come home.
All right, we accept your offer. It was bluffing, but, I mean, I can't turn that down now.
I guess everybody has their price.
Yeah, but the morale was super low. You can just see them walking into work, like knowing they were going to leave on a gurney, and that's one thing that really is hard about the medical field, and one thing that I've vented about even being home. When you're doing 3-4 days in a row, leaving just totally beat, knowing you're coming back for the same type of same type of abuse, if you want to call it that. It's just like it's rough. And they had it day in, day out for months, and it's probably still happening. And it makes sense. I don't blame them for walking out at times.
Right.
And especially because of the fear that's also applied. And a lot of them are the breadwinners. Like, they can't afford to get sick.
Right.
Yeah, there's just so many factors that pile onto these nurses. And it's just, I don't know. I don't have the Dr. Phil cure-all answer. I don't know. I don't know.
Do any of us?
Yeah.
Do you have the nurse Phil answer?
So, you said you were there for a little over a month. Did that improve at all the entire time you were there, or has it all just kind of been just one massive slog?
If it didn't get worse, it probably just stayed baseline. It just stayed stagnant, plateaued, terrible.
A plateau of misery.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, there were maybe 1 or 2 days where miraculously I had only 4 patients, which was like awesome. That day was awesome.
I can breathe.
And I think that was actually my last week out there. So
Right.
that was super nice. Just get a nice smooth coast to the finish line. And
Ease into it.
yeah. Yeah. So, but oftentimes it was terrible. I didn't know. And one thing lucky for me, because it was a new software, I didn't have to chart as specifically and as, what's the word? Is
Precisely.
There's the word. Precisely as the other nurses. I have no idea how they were able to do that. Take care of their patients and chart as precisely and intensively as they were required.
Right.
But then there's the factor they were in what's called a code D, code disaster. And I didn't quite read that, you know.
You didn't get that far into the manual.
Didn't get that
Into the
far in the manual.
But
Code A, B, C, that's probably enough.
they weren't required to do a full documentation or a full assessment or document the full assessment as precisely as the software has outlined. We would do what's a nursing note. You just quickly like a few sentences. Patient's doing well. No acute. No
So-
acute.
So I imagine it's maybe kind of like what an ER would be like, where they got a big bus accident happen and all the
They
patients
do
are
a quick
rushing in.
triage. Yeah.
He's got a spike sticking out of him. He's got a something like
It's-
that.
That would
Yeah, at
probably
that
be-
point, it's field medicine.
that's probably a 3. I think that is like, yeah, triage 3. So they would be admitted.
Right.
So, you know, throughout all of this, what have you been doing, and what have you seen those that you work with do to help kind of protect yourselves? I mean, you mentioned a lot of these guys are breadwinners for their family; they can't afford to get sick. You know, what kind of steps were you told to take, and what extra steps did you notice people taking to protect themselves?
I'm visualizing a doctor right now as you ask that question. She was probably like a 4'6" little lady, super sweet, super nice.
Mm-hmm.
She was wearing the gown, and we have like a face mask. It just has like a little rubber band or elastic headband, and it just comes over
A face shield thing.
a face shield.
Okay.
But one day she came in with I didn't stare too long, even though I wanted to stare. Some type of helmet. It was huge, like, and
Full hazmat.
She went and grabbed the Halo 3 Collector's Edition Master Chief helmet, stuck that on her head.
And I was in a patient's room when we first noticed her, and myself and the patient both like caught eye on her. And the guy's like, "Man, she looks like she's ready to take off." Yeah, but
Excuse me while I go check the new protocol.
I think I may have missed something. Give me a moment.
hey, more power to her. And she was taking extra steps to keep her safe, keep
Right.
herself safe. I don't knock on it. It was definitely a good laugh, but yeah, people were taking precautions like that. They were wearing more PPE, personal protective equipment, than necessary. I always wore the bare minimum. I wasn't, breaking any rules. I was all within policy, but
You wore what was required.
I wore what was required because personally I felt like I've already had it.
Mm-hmm.
So to prevent myself from spreading it is what my concern was. If I still was contagious. See, I don't even know. I don't even know the timelines of the contagious, like the dormant and the,
Right.
I forget all those, but how long you're contagious and all that. But
Right.
yeah, I took precautions, but definitely nurses and aides, all people out there were taking more steps to keep themselves safe. Yeah. Some would even say excessive steps, but
Right.
I think it was all well and good.
So with that, kind of flip it around, what kind of recommendations would you give to the public that feel like they need to go to the hospital, things like that, whether it's for coronavirus or for anything else to help keep themselves safe while they go to the hospital?
That's a
and
tricky.
and to help you guys as well as the staff.
That's a tricky question that could get me in trouble
Okay.
because I don't know the exact protocol or the
Well,
guidelines. But
I'm not talking about like, make sure you wear a mask or
Yeah.
anything like that. Just like in general,
Just
like
if you were going to go to the hospital in these times, or you were going to send your wife to the hospital in these times, what kind of things would you tell her for her? Not necessarily that the hospital would want her to do, but things that you would think would help her to make things a little bit easier on her as she's going.
if we had reason to go to the hospital, I would go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
How my personal beliefs are now, I think I would be okay. Hold on, let me buffer this one.
Obviously, don't say anything that'll get you in trouble.
Right,
All
right. If I had reason to go to the hospital, I would go because my belief is you go when you know you're dying
Mm-hmm.
or you know something is severely wrong.
when you know the clinic isn't going to be able to help you out.
Yeah. I will go to the hospital when it's necessary. Now, that threshold is different for all people. Follow your gut.
Right.
I definitely, if you feel like you need to go, I definitely am not going to say stay away. because the COVID's running rampant or like whatever fear there might be. If you need to go, get yourself to the hospital.
All right. So yes, I presume that 'cause I went to one of the hospitals here for my wife to get a checkup on her baby that she's due in October, I think November technically, but they had a pretty good setup. You know, they checked the temperature and whatever of people coming in and all that stuff. But I presume with we didn't even touch the ER area of the hospital because we don't need to. But they had like a tent thing set up and things like that. So I presume
Pre-checks.
if you had an actual emergency, your hand is sliced open, whatever, you go there, they're going to have things set up to help direct you to where you actually need to be for things, not necessarily like, because it looks like they have, at least at the hospital I went to, they had the ER entrance set up to do some more intensive screening for COVID-19. And then from there, they would direct you where you need to go for stuff. Is that kind of the same of what you see where you're at?
Yeah, my hospital has a tent. We would do a little pre-check on them, ask them if they're having any symptoms, and quick assessment.
Right.
Let them in.
Cool.
So then, now that you're back here in Utah, are you still doing stuff in LTAC type things, or are you stationed in something completely different now? What are you?
Back to my floor.
Back to your floor and
followed all protocol, and that's what all my coworkers were very concerned about. We didn't want to jump in, you know, having gone to Boston, how intense it was there, and all the laws that were almost rolling out daily. We wanted to make sure we weren't crossing any lines,
right,
endangering anybody, especially our licenses. Like, we were really trying to protect ourselves, and we crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and got back to work.
Nice.
That's good. So, I guess, is there anything in this that you wish we would have asked you, or that you feel like we missed in talking about this?
You know, I don't really know if I could elaborate more on how the hospitals handled it or my experience. I'm glad I did it. But I went with the mindset of just, let's get it done. Let's put in the hours, get the experience, and get out. I didn't go for some more honorable. Yeah.
You excited to help people? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I like people. I want to help people.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to help the COVIDs to feel fulfilled.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, you're already.
And they were cutting our hours back here, so.
It was an opportunity to stay working and to get more experience, and took it.
And it may sound selfish. I don't consider myself a selfish person, but a lot of it was the resume. It looks good. And now if I want to stay in Steward, I've got a pretty good leg up on not much of the competition because I did that.
Well, I imagine in your defense, a lot of heart surgeons, brain surgeons didn't become top of their field because they ho-hummed around wherever they were assigned. They pushed the limit somewhere to reach the top, right? Whether it was
Maybe
coming up with a new procedure or volunteering first to do the procedures and things like that.
Yeah, it's a little dog eat dog.
Yeah.
It's a lot about networking and who you know and not necessarily what you know.
Right.
I'll agree to that. It's the same with getting a job almost anywhere.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Nurses are people.
They are?
I mean, that's so I've been told.
Uh-huh.
So I've observed.
I wouldn't know. The only one I know is James.
Yeah.
And,
Wait.
Yeah, and no, actually, I know quite a few. They are indeed people. It's a true story. I can vouch for that. We won't get fact checked on that one.
And even if we do, we won't see it because we barely read the comments.
Well, was there anything else you would like to share with with us, with our audience, with the world, about what you experienced, about what you've been through, as far as going to Boston and all of this?
My only, I don't know, like my one comment that I always think about is I created this post Post-it note or this note on my phone. It's titled "If I Posted," because sometimes I read something online and it makes me want to rant or it makes me want to comment. But I have made the vow that I do not comment or post on political things, on controversial things, like next to ever. I mean, there have been times due to my situation or my feelings or whatever, I have broken that guideline.
Right.
But, and one of those things that I said was along the lines of, don't let fear control you. Right? Fear is the opposite of faith, and I think a lot of people are acting out in fear. But who can hardly blame them? I mean, it's what they know, it's what they're being told, and
It's something new and unknown.
it's something new and unknown, and it's a real confusing time.
Right.
And I don't know what it's going to be, the torch in the darkness that's going to lead us out of this. I have no idea. I wish I could elaborate more, but I think it's a lot of me has just turtled down, bunkered, and just told my wife, let's just take care of ourselves. Let's keep our minds sound and our faith strong. And I believe we're going to get through this. You know, like,
yeah.
so what are we going to do? Besides look after, like, besides take care of ourselves, I don't know what to do. That sounds almost selfish, like we're just going to be just bunker down and not extend a help to anyone. I'm not saying that. I'm just, yeah. What's the right answer?
How can you help somebody else if you don't have your own ducks in a row, right? You know, you gotta know that your stuff is taken care of in order to focus on being able to take care of somebody else.
Yeah. Thank you for braining for me.
You know, I really liked what you said, and in fact, it reminded me of a thought that I've had a lot recently. As you mentioned, people are reacting a lot in fear right now, and you see it all the time, every day on the news. The last few weeks, it has been one thing after another of American citizens attacking American citizens because we don't agree. You know, and it's fear on both sides. Everybody's afraid of something.
Yep.
And all of our fear buttons are getting pushed right now, and we're all coming after each other. And, you know, I was listening to a story today about an officer that made an arrest, and it was a young black man that he arrested, and he was holding him down with his knees, and the black man died. He was killed. You know, I didn't really look into the story very much, so I can't give you a lot of the details. I can't really go into it. I don't want to go into it because I don't have all the details, and I don't want to be wrong about, you know, what I talk about on that subject, because it's a touchy subject. But, you know, I was hearing this story earlier today, and it just hit me, like, what has happened to our country?
Right.
You know, the name of our country is the United States of America, and it has been years since I have seen any form of unity in this country
As a whole.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I honestly, I think the last time I truly think we had any form of unity at all was 9/11.
Yeah.
And that was for like a week.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you go from being this bastion of unity and of progress in the world to what we are today? And it's fear. If fear is driving us to all kinds of different things that are just completely out of left field in most cases. And it is so sad to see, you know, they have these articles in like the New York Times and stuff where they come out and they post all these names of people that have died from COVID, because it's not just a number, right? But how often do we step back and think about the fact that the person that we're talking to on Facebook, the fact of the person that we're tweeting at on Twitter, the person that we're watching on YouTube, the person that we see streaming a game on Twitch, these are real people. They have real feelings. They have real opinions. They have real emotions. And nobody stops to think about other people as human anymore. We've become so desensitized by technology
Right.
and the fact that we have no physical communication anymore that we have lost the ability to unify because we have lost the ability to identify each other as human. And it just hit me today that that's where we've gotten to.
What better way to fix that than make everyone stay home and communicate virtually?
Right. And it's such a rough thing to see, and especially with a pandemic like this causing such separation of people, such fear among people, when we should be helping each other out, when we should be seeing each other as humans with needs.
Right.
We're seeing each other as nothing but arguments. And that's a sad thing.
Somewhere where we can thump our chests and feel like, aha, I won.
Right.
I have the better argument because he didn't respond.
So and that's just my thoughts as you were talking about fear. That's kind of, something that I've been thinking about for a while, that that just kind of came to the forefront in my mind.
Awesome. I made your gears turn.
You're so inspiring.
So inspiring. But it's been great having you on, James. And I put a little plug in for some of the stuff you do on the side. He's not just a nurse; he also is one of the proprietors of, is it And Gaming or A&D Gaming? How do you guys say that?
I'm trying to say it, And Gaming Studios, because that's the technical name on all of our pages. It's not what it says on our logo. I'm actually in the works on refining that.
Refining the logo. Okay.
And full disclosure, I work with him.
Hey,
That.
he does.
I've done some of the editing on the videos that he's got.
So we only got a couple minutes left, but put a quick plug in. Tell us a little bit about your And Gaming Studios. What is it you guys do?
Oh dear. Okay, on the fly. And
On
Gaming
the fly.
Studios.
This is what you get.
And Gaming Studios is a community. It is my main idea and vision of it is it wasn't mine. I wanted it to be a group. I wanted it to be a community where people felt like they could be a part of something, share, enjoy, laugh. And I wanted to be a part of those laughs.
Right.
And a lot of the technicalities are still getting sanded out and refined because it is still a baby and it's still growing. People are coming in, leaving. Life happens. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, trying to get that thing to grow and just have some fun with it.
So what's your favorite game then? Especially for doing something with streaming or editing, things like that.
Okay, my two favorite games. I love StarCraft. StarCraft has always been my baby. I love it because it's like chess on steroids. I love outthinking an opponent. I love playing mind games. I love out-strategizing someone. It's just so much fun to know that they fell for...
He loves it when he crushes you and you know it.
You've been had.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's awesome to see the light of possibility and hope leave someone's eyes as they realize utter and complete defeat.
Well, what I think about is like someone who's definitely stronger or better than you. They have more skill, faster hands, whatever it may be. But because of something you thought outside the box, blindsided them with, took the match. I don't know. It's just makes me giddy. I love it.
Right.
And the other game that I'm in love with is PUBG. The main reason is because my wife plays it. She loves PUBG, and I love
Get to play it together.
That's a
Yeah.
good reason.
Yeah.
My wife also plays. She usually plays Destiny.
Yeah.
So
It's so much fun. So much fun.
it's
Right.
good stuff.
Yeah, those are my two games as of right now. Trying to branch out, but life.
Well, that is life happens. So where can people reach And Gaming at?
Oh, our Facebook page is just And Gaming Studios. Same with our Instagram, our Twitter, and our YouTube. Just And Gaming Studios.
Okay.
Just
We'll
spell
throw
it out.
some links into our
We'll throw some
descriptions.
links out in our descriptions. So have a look, check them out, and this has been the Naked Apple.
The Naked Apple. Bye.
Bye bye.